for 20 years now, we've been at this level where we've improved our efficiencies. We can see more patients, but to maintain the quality of our outcomes, we can't really get past where we are, right? And now that opportunity is finally here. The technology is finally here to allow mass customization within orthodontics, right? With 3D printing, again, has been what's driving all of this.
Hello there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the OrthoPreneurs podcast. Today, we have our two-time returning champion, Dr. Heather Stone Hopkins. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. By the way, amazing meeting in Austin. Absolutely fantastic. Just such a great energy that you bring, and I had a great experience. So thank you for all that you do, because I know that is an enormous amount of time and energy and effort that you put into it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And your pre-symposium lecture on Thursday was amazing. Anybody who got to see that really got to see some really good ways to treat cases in a different way, to look at it in a pragmatic, common sense sort of approach, which you always bring to your presentations. And I enjoyed seeing you on Saturday night at ACL Live. That was great too. So it's shameless plug for anybody who hasn't signed up for OrthoPreneurs Summit. You should go for 23. I think we're already 65% sold out on the team track.
Wow.
So it's opsummit2023.com. And so let's start first by anybody who just hasn't ever really listened to your story. If you don't mind taking 60 seconds or so and just telling everybody a little bit about your background. How did you end up becoming an orthodontist? How did you end up where you are? I know people really appreciate hearing that.
Of course. First, I guess I would like to officially give a shout out to my orthodontist, Dr. Christopher O'Rourke. I know he's followed a lot of these things, and he's in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I had bilaterally impacted maxillary canines, so spent a lot of time in his office. Yes, I know, one of those.
Bilateral.
And he really introduced me to the specialty, and I owe a lot to him. I then went back and worked for him in high school and in college. So thank you, Dr. O'Rourke. You are the reason that I am here today. And I worked out in Los Angeles at the beginning of my career, practiced in Beverly Hills, got to do the whole celebrity thing out there. But that's not why I became an orthodontist. It was really cool, and I learned a lot out there, but wasn't my end game to be on TV or being more of a celebrity in real life than to straighten teeth. And so I did that for a while, and then moved to South Carolina, where I was an associate for 2.5 years, and then supposed to do a buy-in. That didn't work out, which I'm sure a few of you guys have been through an experience like that before.
Yeah.
So then had a solo practice, and then almost 7 years ago, I bought into an ortho, or it was pedo GP practice. So now I'm ortho pedo GP. We're all equal owners in the practice in Lexington, South Carolina. I like to do a lot of consulting and I call them my side hustles for fun. My husband always says that I need the extra intellectual stimulation. So I like to do R&D and product development for some different companies. And so that's kind of where things are now.
Nice. And you said side hustle for fun, right? But it's okay to say side hustle for profit too, right? If you make something, and nothing would make me happier than to see someone I care about have a side hustle that makes them independently wealthy, right? And it's funny because as orthodontists, we tend to be very focused on our craft, our art, we got to do this. And I would love for you to say, hey, I've got a side hustle. And by the way, I do ortho for fun now because, I never have to work again. That would make me really happy to see that. And so if anybody's going to do it, it's you, Heather.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. They say when you're having fun, it's not work, right? So it's just something I'm really passionate about and I really enjoy. So it doesn't feel like it's work. It feels like it's, it feels kind of crazy that I get paid to do it, right? Because I just have so much fun.
And that's the same with me with OrthoPreneurs, right? I'm an orthodontist, but this is what I love doing. I'm not as big on products or, integrations and software, but bringing people together has always been something I enjoy doing. And, whether it lasts another year or 20 years, it's fun to do it as a quote unquote side hustle, right?
Well, you're good at it, right? So it's all about playing to your strengths and finding those things that you're really good at. And you are very good at bringing people together and really kind of creating that community within our profession.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And so talking about side hustles, let's jump in because you have two things in particular that I want to talk about today. Let's start maybe first with your education platform, right? I know
Okay.
you've been doing some really great stuff helping educate people. And by the way, crystal clear, a disclaimer before we get into this, I have zero financial interest in anything that Heather does. These are all her projects. I'm just here to open up everybody's eyes to some amazing opportunities that they may or may not be interested in. But I want to be clear up front about that, that I have no financial interest in anything we're about to talk about. So tell everybody a little bit, if you don't mind, about your education platform, what you do with it, what it teaches, how people can sign up. Take it any direction you want, and I'll ask questions along the way.
Yeah, no, sure. So I mean, again, so disclaimer, yes, I do have a financial interest in it. I am the 100% sole owner of all of it. So no one else, who talks to me about it has any interest in it, but it is something that I do own independently. And it's something that, again, I have a lot of fun doing. I'm really passionate about educating people. I always say that I have a Pooh Bear brain. I have to make things really simple in order to understand them. And when I have to break all those things down to understand it and then kind of reconstruct it all in my head, it's a great way to teach people. And the best way to learn something is if you can teach it. And so it helps me learn as well. And I kind of started this platform because I do a lot of speaking for some different companies, and I've been to different events. But I have my kind of core values that I believe in, and I'm not willing to ever sacrifice those just to be out there. And so there are certain times when companies may ask to kind of control the message, or have like specific talking points, and I just don't really tend to play by those rules. So what I love about my platform is that things like that happen. You freeze, whatever, it doesn't matter, you go with it. But I
Yeah.
love that I have my backgrounds. I love that I have like my silly t-shirts. I get to kind of control my message, have my own imaging, and talk about what I truly believe in. And I'm really grateful to all the orthodontists who have signed up and kind of taken part in that to help support the idea of not needing, sponsorship from companies to kind of be out there and educate people.
Yeah, and specifically the courses you provide, can you describe them in more detail? Talk a little bit about, if I, Glenn Krieger, want to sign up, what am I going to get out of it? What am I learning? How am I going to be better at the end than I was when I started?
Yeah, well, in my practice, I'm 100% digital. So I do all clear aligners and custom digital brackets. In the Ortho GP model, there's a lot of potential there, and with the pedo department and hygiene and recall and cleanings. And so I've established a whole system to, as far as being able to capture those patients and bring them over where it's non-doctor time. And so it took me, said it was not an easy journey for me to kind of set that up. And so I kind of walked through how to clinically have better outcomes with the digital treatment modalities out there, whether it's, Invisalign clear aligners, whether it's with custom digital brackets like Halo-In, Light Force, braces on demand, like any of those. I teach the mechanics involved with custom to help you become more efficient, how to become, better at our craft, right? How to have better outcomes, as well as create a better patient experience. And so I teach that portion. I also get into like the office efficiencies and workflow and how to delegate. Because once you start adopting these new systems in the clinic, then you have to have new systems for your whole team, right? And so
Right.
I start with what matters to us most as orthodontists. How do we treat our patients with these things? And then I kind of move into, once you feel confident in your outcomes and what you're able to accomplish in the clinic, then how do you kind of implement new systems for your whole team to make this run really efficiently?
Yeah, and again, you and I, one of the things we talk about a lot in our last podcast, or the first one, way back when, was efficiencies and growth and be
Yes.
more productive and stuff like that. And so let's segue a little bit now into your collaboration, if you will, for lack of a better description, with Align, right? What you've developed and allowed them to use, I think is the best way to put it. Do you want to talk about that product? Because I think it's pretty cool. And after we're done talking, I'm going to ask you to jump in and do a little demo. For those who are watching, they'll see it. For those who are listening, I know you'll do your best to explain to them. But I think it was very hard for me personally to understand exactly the scope and the breadth of what it is you've created. So please take a few minutes and talk about that.
Yeah, no, of course. So, I think it kind of goes back to what I have been saying for a long time, is that a lot of the change that has happened in our profession has all been driven by 3D printing, right? So 3D printing came in, and then that led to intraoral scanners. Like we talked about the cycle of innovation, that the intraoral scanners was kind of it bridged that gap to kind of start a whole new cycle of innovation within our practices and new products out there. And then now we're finally to the point where we have the ability to do mass customization. You look at,
I love that line, by the way, mass customization.
yes, mass customization. Well, I mean, that's what, if you look at
Yeah,
what Larry Andrews was trying to do with straight wire appliance, is that he was trying to take tweed mechanics, bending a wire for every single tooth was not efficient. So he established some universal norms, right? We're going to
right,
treat to the average. And they could mass produce that. They could scale that. That could be manufactured.
right.
But it was treating to the average. So it allowed us as a specialty to grow exponentially. That's when it started to actually be fun to be an orthodontist. That's when you started having those applications to residencies skyrocket, because a lot easier than tweed mechanics for every patient. And it allowed us to scale until we hit a plateau again, right? Because what happens is that we can't predict when we need to customize, right? When do we need a repo bracket? When are we going to have to bend and a wire? So there's this unpredictable portion of that then creates a new inefficiency in our practice. And so we are at kind of, for 20 years now, we've been at this level where we've improved our efficiencies. We can see more patients, but to maintain the quality of our outcomes, we can't really get past where we are, right? And now that opportunity is finally here. The technology is finally here to allow mass customization within orthodontics, right? With 3D printing, again, it's been what's driving all of this. It's what led to clear aligners. It's what's led to the bracket systems like Lightforce and KLON and braces on demand are all dependent on 3D printing. And so that allows you to scale, right? Scale custom. And anyone who's ever had an idea or even running our practices, a business, the ideas are easy and one-offs. It's when you have to scale it, when you have to create a system and actually scale it, that it becomes a challenge. And the ability to scale customization finally exists within our specialty. And I had some information from Lightforce Orthodontics. They did an internal study looking at what is their average prescription, right? So they were looking at their average prescription. And so for lower incisor torque alone, what would you guess like the standard deviation would be? What would you think would be a standard deviation for torque?
Using what as a measurement? Like you're talking about degrees of torque?
Yeah, so like degrees of torque. Like if you
How
were
many?
trying to think,
Right. So here's our average is our center, and our two standard
mhm,
deviations are what 95% of people are using. So
mhm.
I would say deviation in torque would be 12%. Standard deviation would be 8% is what I would say.
Okay. So if you think about like in terms like of like degrees for like lower incisors, right? Most prescriptions are going to have like -6, 0, or
Right.
+6, right? And so if you had a mean of -1, like if they found that the average was -1, so what do you think by 8%? Like what do you think would be the range of standard
Right. It's
deviation?
it's tough because in a controlled environment is not real world, right? It's hard to go to like every ortho practice, right? That's what I'm thinking about. But if you're going to go in controlled environment, I'd say one standard deviation would be if average is -1, I would guess that people would be anywhere from +3 to -5 would be like a one standard deviation, with two being,
Yeah.
7 to -9, right?
Yeah. And again, because like that's kind of like in line with what our universal prescriptions provide us with.
Right.
What they found is that it actually ranges from -11 to +9 was one
As
standard deviation.
wow, -11. So 10 to
That's one
10,
standard deviation. So
10
that's
degrees.
70%. Yes, 10 degrees. So
And
10
I,
degrees
and I
standard
said
deviation is 10
8. So my
degrees.
first guess wasn't so far off.
No, exactly. And so when you think about just that level of variation, I mean, we can't bend the torque on every single lower incisor like that in our practices. So we really, to truly become the best orthodontist we could possibly be and deliver the absolute best outcomes to our patients, the mass customization that's available today is what allows us to do that. So it really, truly realizes the vision of what orthodontics, always is been meant to be. And so it's really exciting that we can do that, because now we can do it on a computer screen in a few minutes versus all that chair time clinically. And I have lots of orthodontists, I know like that are amazing orthodontists and get great outcomes, but how much time do you spend chairside? Like how much of your day do
Right.
you spend chairside in the clinic?
In total number, I have no idea. I couldn't even begin. I would say 2 hours and 40 minutes. I just making that up off
Yeah.
the top of my head.
Yeah, yeah. So I had like people that like came to my office and they were like timing me. Apparently, I didn't even know it, but I put gloves on 3 times in a day, and it was like
You put
less
gloves
than
on three
15
times
minutes,
and
like in the whole day that I sat down, spent like sitting down at a patient's chair doing something
wow.
in their mouth.
Wow.
And so that's where it's when you look at that level of customization and it's already kind of been done and built into the brackets themselves or into the aligners themselves, then it really takes a lot of the stress out of your day. Just, whether it's even just like being hunched over in a chair working or just the stress of like everyone waiting on you. Like we're the bottlenecks in our day, right? We're the thing that slow us down is people are waiting on us to come chairside to customize their treatment. So by customizing everything up front, it's going to improve our outcomes. It's going to make us way more efficient, and it's going to improve that patient experience because they're not running behind for appointments. It's fewer appointment times. I mean, I remember when there were bends in my wire and they'd snap that wire in. Like that's not a pleasant. I mean, that's not really the
No.
best part of orthodontics. And unplanned repositioning and brackets off, all that. I don't have that in my practice anymore. And so those are the things that kind of get us off course during the day. And, once the wheels come off, like the whole day just goes downhill. Right. And so the difference that the way I practice that people don't necessarily see right away is that I'm not spending my entire day chairside. I'm like walking around, like talking to people. I can do clin checks. I can approve IDB cases. My entire OBS, recall, growth guidance, whatever you call it, program is non-doctor time. So we get a scan, a pan, and 3 extra roll of photos. We make it as convenient as possible. I'm a busy mom. I understand what it's like to have to, come into an appointment in the middle of the day and wait an hour to see someone to be like, hey, 2 thumbs up, great job, keep growing. It looks
Right.
good.
Keep growing.
Yeah. We try to add value by giving t-shirts, and sending birthday cards. We could add value by making it more convenient, like letting them get the information they want, like on their terms. And by having like the intraoral scanners, I can see everything I need to see. So it's all non-doc time. And so I do all those things throughout my day because I'm not spending time chairside customizing treatment to the patients. And so that it's once I recognized the value of custom, I didn't want to go back to traditional brackets and wires because I knew it was a better experience and outcome for my patients. The problem I had was then how do I manage all of those things in my day? Like, how do I manage like what I'm supposed to be looking at? What to do when, like opening 10 screens, 10 platforms to find all the information to make a decision. And that's where I started to just drown. Like I just was really struggling. But I was just I believe so much in the clinical aspect of it that I just decided to try and find a solution. And so that's what led to creating Asana Smiles, right?
Right.
Is that I just had a problem in my office and I just was determined that I was going to figure it out. And so I kind of created this platform system that basically is going to it prioritizes everything for you. Everything's in one platform, one screen. I have one dashboard I look at. I don't look at anything else. It delegates all the steps. Everybody sees what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it. And there's no assistants coming up to me and saying, hey, like, did you see my sticky note? Or did you see my list? I need you to do these when really they're not due until like next week.
Right.
It's her priority, not my priority. And I like was struggling with, how to prioritize those things, with locating all the information that I needed to make a treatment decision, opening up my practice management, opening up my iTero, opening up, IDS or Ortho Select or whatever, and then opening up imaging and then having to look at treatment notes, lab prescriptions. All of that is like to get all that up and open just to make a decision for one patient. It was more than I could manage and really scale it with this platform from the day, like, so a patient comes from my office, they can schedule online. If they schedule online, the information automatically populates within the platform. If they schedule through Align Concierge, their information will automatically populate within the platform. And it'll be like a dashboard for your admin team. They can do their new patient paperwork through there. As soon as they complete that, it's automatically added to their patient card. And it's just going to kind of continue that way. When they come in for their eval, we scan them. My treatment coordinator is going to, there's a file attached for the lab prescription. She's going to fill out whatever I say. when the patient's in the chair, in my face, right then, right there, whether we know if they're going to start treatment or not, it gets done then. There's automated follow-up with the patients from the TC. And then when they decide to start treatment, a contract is automatically sent to them via text and or email. It's browser based. As soon as they sign it and hit submit, it comes back, attaches to the patient card, and then automatically will move to the lab dashboard to be submitted to a lab. It never comes back to me. I don't have a stack of charts on my desk of homework of review these cases, review these records. These patients want to start treatment and we need you to fill out a lab prescription. It was already done during the eval. And that information's all already kind of being tracked with the patient. Once it goes to the lab dashboard, then what the vision is of what this will be within, a year to 18 months is that then your team never has to leave that dashboard if the lab has an iTero integration. So right now, the iTero scan will automatically populate in. There's an IDS link right now, but as soon as the contract is signed and the lab prescription has been put in there, the financial coordinator, it has as the information moves, you answer these questions for each person. So for the financial coordinator, it says, make sure you select, did they choose aligners or did they choose braces? Did they choose limited? You have to choose what they selected. You have to choose if they scheduled an appointment. So it forces them to answer questions before information can move forward. And then your team would never have to go to a lab website again. So they'd never have to go to IDS, specialty appliances, Dynaflex, Lightforce, OrthoSelect, any of them. Once the contract is signed, the records have automatically been added. The scan is automatically there. Your treatment prescription was placed back during the eval. Then the lab would receive all the information on their side and they could start manufacturing the case. And then once it's ready for the doctor review, then it populates on the doctor dashboard. So the way that works today is once a clinic check is ready for review, it'll show up on my dashboard telling me it's ready. So I don't have this whole queue of cases to work on, but I don't know which ones are ready yet or which ones are not. It doesn't show up on my dashboard until the clinic check is actually ready for me to go in and work on it. And when I open it, I'm going to have, if I want to look at insurance info, I can. I don't usually ever want to look at that, but if I wanted to, it's there. My initial treatment notes are there. Their financial contract is there. The lab RX is there. And then the link to the scan and the link to the clin check are all on one screen for me. So everything I need to make decisions is all on one screen. My whole list is prioritized by due date. And all the due dates update automatically as it goes throughout the process. So I know exactly what to do and what day it's due on. I have everything I need right in front of me. And it doesn't end up on my list until it's actually ready for my eyes to look at it and make a decision. And so it's changed my life, really. It's what has allowed me to then, and to your point, when we talked about at OP Summit with the future of ortho panel is that, with those cycles of innovation, I feel like intraoral scanners really opened the eyes of what could be done across as far as appliances and labs. And I feel like this really kind of opens the next kind of door of what can we change? I couldn't have a non-doc time OBS growth guidance recall program if I didn't have something like this to manage it. What's cool to me, and I think is the most exciting part, is that there are people who are way smarter than me and just, are going to have all these great ideas once they see what's possible. And so that's what I'm kind of excited to see where people take it. Because I know what it's done for me, but everyone practices a little differently, and just seeing what other people are able to create once they have a solution like this to help them kind of see the options, see what they can do, and start really changing the way that we think about our practices moving forward.
I know it's going to be tough for those who are not able to see it, but did you want to go through real quickly just kind of what it looks like and how it works? Because you just gave a lot of information, right? And it's kind of hard to digest, but I think if you show something real quick so people can at least see it. And for those who are listening, I know you and I have talked about you trying to do your best to sort of paint the picture for them.
Yeah, of course. So you can see, so this is a practice dashboard.
Which is showing a bunch of names of patients.
Yes, correct. So it's showing names of patients. And so it has little patient cards, and those patient cards are, there's a color coding system. It has colors for the status, colors for what information is needed, what information has not been collected yet. Everything is red, still needed. If it's green, it's it's been added, we're good. and you click on these patient cards, and there's a lot of little custom fields as far as what appliances they're doing, when their next appointment is. And in those custom fields, there, for example, there's a link to the iTero scan. So by clicking on a link from that one dashboard and that patient card, I'm able to access their iTero scan. And so again, as an example, it has like these little subtasks for each department, each step, where it's like, have patient forms been added? Yes, the new patient paperwork has been added. And so you can take a look at that if you want any information about their health history. That is through an integration through Jot Forms. And so that does happen automatically. It's automated. If you wanted to look at their insurance info, that's in there, their records. And so it's just every step you can it compartmentalizes the information. So you can kind of scroll through and look at what you need to see or what you're checking for. One of the things that's nice is that it can't really skip steps because it can't get to a lab person until a contract's been added. Like the way it has checkpoints in the system that it can't bypass having a contract and get to a lab person. So in the time that I've been using this in my practice, we've never once had a patient go through and have a mistake where, something was missed or something wasn't put in correctly, or we didn't have what we needed in time for the patient's appointment. It just kind of foolproofs like the whole thing to where you can't, your team members can't make like just an honest mistake of having a miscommunication somehow. It also just as far as, again, if someone is out of the office and they're sick, you don't have to have access to their email or know their logins or anything like that. It just, you can see exactly where the patient was in the process. So this is the Align connected dashboard. On this is where it's going to have visibility for your team as to what's happening on the Align side. So they automate this board for you. Everything that happens on this board happens automatically and is done by Align. So what you could see just happen there is there's an order submitted column. So once a case is submitted, it's going to show up under order submitted. Once the ClinCheck is ready for review, Align's going to update that status, and then it'll automatically move to a new column. In that example there, I have it set up that, so if you have a multi-doctor practice, people can do it differently. For my personal preferences, I like to have that then come to a dashboard for me. And so then that is going to come to my doctor column where it's going to say this ClinCheck is ready for you to review. And so I don't see it until it needs my attention. It has the link to the ClinCheck right there in the patient card, and I can
That's
go
awesome.
directly to the ClinCheck and do what I need to do. So that's kind of, how it works. As soon as I hit approve, it's going to show back up on the Align dashboard again for my team to track, where it is in process. If it's being manufactured, when it's been shipped. The UPS shipping link is going to be embedded here too. So
That's
your team
awesome.
won't have to, go look for and see where something is. So it just eliminates the like running around and looking for information, going into emails, looking to see if something's been done yet, if the patient sent the paperwork in yet, looking to see if the ClinCheck's ready yet. And it is going to, like as far as running reports, like we don't run reports anymore to see what appliances need to be delivered that week because it's all right here in this dashboard. And if something is due, it's going to tell us when it's due, when the appointment is. And if something's like kind of running behind, it'll actually kind of turn red and like alert you, hey, this isn't going to be here in time for their appointment. You might want to, you need to take action. So all that's built in. So my team doesn't have to, as I said, run a bunch of reports every week, figuring out what appliances, need to be delivered, going and checking in the back, see if they've been checked in yet, or not, and putting notes in the charts. So all of it's here in one place, and it creates accountability across your team because they can see who's responsible for what. It has a time and a name tied to it. And if someone doesn't do their job, there's no finger pointing. There's no, oh, I put a sticky note on your desk, or I sent you that text message. Didn't you do that? Very few things make it to my level where my attention is needed because they kind of like manage each other, because they all know that their teammates can see what's going on. And so if they don't get their job done, they know everyone can see that they just didn't do their job and there's no way around it. That's kind of, a little preview of like what it is and what it does. And everyone has just like limited view of what they're responsible for, kind of like within my clinical team, they can see like all the clinical things, but they don't necessarily see the doctor steps or the financial steps or the admin steps. The admin team, kind of holds each other accountable. They see the admin things. So it's not overwhelming for anyone because they only see the parts they're involved in for the most part.
There you go. So I know we covered a lot of ground on this. If someone is interested in learning more about this, or demos or whatever it may be, where do they go? How do they learn more about this?
Well, there are, a couple of links out there. If you just Google Asana Smiles, it'll come up to kind of get access and get started. You can visit my platform, tippingpointortho.com. I have information there. I have links for you to sign up and get started as well as some information on onboarding and training with it. And it's something, it makes such a big impact in your practice. Just from day one, because it's, again, just like we talked about in the clinic, it's hard for people to imagine what they won't be doing anymore. It's hard to kind of picture like
Right.
not being chairside all day. And so it can look like a lot to like it's extra work being added, but really it's replacing running all the reports. It's replacing having team members go to email and, download forms and then re-upload them over into practice management. It's eliminating the sticky notes, it's eliminating the piles of charts on your desk of homework to do. It's eliminating all the spreadsheets. So all that gets eliminated and it all just lives in this one platform, this one place. And most of these items can actually have seamless integrations where the information is going to populate for you automatically. So your team's not even having to go and enter or duplicate information.
Again, we've covered so much ground. I think people's heads are about to explode. I mean, literally, we covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I want to just say, for everybody out there, I'm sitting here watching her go through it on the screen. If you saw it, then you know exactly what I'm looking at. If you haven't seen it and you're hearing it, I know it can be like drinking from a fire hose. And so just reach out to her, learn more about it, follow the links that she mentioned of how to get there and learn more. And again, Heather, I want to say thank you to you from the bottom of my heart for A, being a friend, B, being at Summit and being a part of that adventure, and of course for being here today and for all you're doing, because there are people out there who are pushing the envelope. And if some of this seems overwhelming to people, that's okay, right? Like on the traditional adoption curve, right? There's the pioneers and your early adopters, et cetera, et cetera. Not everybody wants to be in the front two compartments of the train, right? They want to be,
No, yeah.
they want to be, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
No, and that's part of why I do this, because I don't want people to have to make the mistakes I made, right? I want to make it easier for the people kind of coming behind me. And that's why I've really put so much time and energy and effort into a collaboration with Align and with Asana to make this something that can be given to others so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel like I did, right? I don't want that for anybody else. I want to be able to offer a solution that we already know works.
And so again, I thank you for being out there pushing the envelope and sort of creating the long tracks in the snow that we can all follow in. And again, I think everybody out there, irrespective of where you are on your technology adoption curve in your practice or your efficiency adoption curve, which I'll call that now, you should at least learn about this. You may not implement it right now. This may not be something you're ready for, and that's okay. What's not okay is just ignoring it and not learning about it. And so get out there, learn more about it. And again, Heather, I look forward to many, many, many more conversations learning from you in the coming years.
Well,
So
thank you,
from the
Glenn. I
bottom of my
appreciate
heart.
it. Appreciate your friendship as well. And just as a last thing, I know we've talked about this in the past. I just want to kind of put a plug in for the idea of just kind of controlling the future of our profession. And I think, Adam Schulhoff says it best when he says, be the master, don't be the tool. We have an opportunity to control what the future of our profession is going to be. And I think mass customization is the best way to kind of standardize what we're doing. And as we see more consolidation and private equity coming into the space, if we don't take control of how we practice, someone's going to start making suggestions for us. So I think that this is our top opportunity and our time to do that now. And that's just kind of something that I'm very passionate about, and I wanted to make sure I was able to convey.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, and look forward to many more good conversations.